WADR. You can listen to us on 94.9 FM in Dakar through our website www.wadr.org. WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar and Conakry, 7 p.m. in Niamey. Good evening and welcome to Newslink, live on West Africa, Democracy Radio 94.9 FM and online at wadr.org. First, our top stories. Benin's President Wadr pledges economic and financial cooperation with Senegal as he begins second leg of its regional tour. The Ghanaian government extradites former microfinance executive Sadina Ationun on financial mismanagement charges. Security forces in Nigeria intensified efforts to secure at least 39 residents adopted by bandits in northwest Zamfara state.
At the level that we were 3 or 4 years ago, and now we are supposed to upgrade the standard of our intelligence monitoring, information gathering beyond what we have now.
Several election candidates in Guinea challenge municipal resorts in court alleging irregularities in vote tallying.
The results initially announced by the CECV were altered by the DGE. We are calling for our rights to be restored and for justice to be done.
Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Augustine Bill Coley.
Thank you for joining our broadcast. We begin with updates on the bilateral visits by President Wadr of Benin to West African states. President Wadr arrived in Dakar, Senegal earlier today and met with Senegalese President Bassirou Diomaye Faye. Their discussions focused on strengthening bilateral ties, boosting economic and financial cooperation, and addressing the security and political challenges facing the West African region. Abdullahi Hassan completes the story.
President Wadr's visit to Senegal marks the second phase of his initial tour of several West African countries, including Niger, Burkina Faso, Nigeria, and Côte d'Ivoire. The new Beninese head of state was received in Dakar by his Senegalese counterpart, Bassirou Diomaye Faye. Discussions between the two leaders focused on several issues of common interest, notably strengthening bilateral relations, economic and financial cooperation, and security and political challenges facing West Africa. The discussions continued at the presidential palace, where both sides reaffirmed their commitment to further consolidate ties between Dakar and Cotonou. The leaders emphasized the need to boost trade and deepen cooperation mechanisms between their countries. After the discussions, President Wadr later traveled to Mali, where he is holding bilateral talks with Transitional President Assimi Goïta. This trip comes as West African leaders seek to strengthen trade, political dialogue, and collective responses to the security challenges facing the region. This tour is also part of Benin's diplomatic commitment to strengthen its relations with the UEMOA member states with which it shares a common currency.
Abdullahi Hassan with that report. The Ghanaian government has extradited former Chief Executive Officer of the Microfinance and Small Loan Center, Sadina Ationun, from the United States. Her extradition follows a U.S. court approval of the government's request. Madame Ationun was convicted of stealing and financial losses amounting to nearly 90 million Ghanaian cedis to the state. She was sentenced in absentia by an Accra High Court in 2024 after failing to return to the country to continue standing trial. Nadia Dititi has the rest of the details.
The extradition follows a ruling by a U.S. District Court in Nevada which upheld Ghana's request and found that the extradition treaty between the two countries remains in force. Ationun was sentenced to 10 years imprisonment by the Accra High Court in April 2024 after being convicted on charges including stealing and causing financial loss to the state involving nearly 90 million cedis during her tenure as Maslock Chief Executive between 2013 and 2016. She had traveled to the United States in 2021 after obtaining permission to seek medical treatment treatment but did not return to continue standing trial. The case marks what is being described as the first extradition from the United States to Ghana since 2009. Legal experts say the development highlights the growing role of international cooperation in the enforcement of criminal judgment. Professor of International Law at the University of Ghana, Kwejo Apiejetia, explains.
And in fact, in most cases, corruption and international law have some strong relationships. And here is being exemplified in the way that the extradition process was processed and followed. This is an example of how cooperation between two countries through an extradition treaty that binds the two countries can be used to ensure that justice is served for the particular country which has had some problems with a wrong committed by its citizen.
Meanwhile, Sedena Matiunu's legal team has filed an appeal seeking to overturn her conviction and sentence, arguing that the prosecution failed to prove its case beyond reasonable doubt. The appeal is currently before the Court of Appeal, which is yet to fix a hearing date. In a related development, the Attorney General Dr. Dominic Ayine is preparing to meet his American counterpart on other pending extraditions, including that of former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. For WADR, Nadidi Tete, Accra.
Now into security matters. The Nigerian security authorities are intensifying efforts to secure the release of at least 39 residents adopted by bandits in Zamfara state, northwest of the country. The adoption took place on Sunday during a reconciliatory meeting aimed at fostering peace between a community and a bandits group operating in the area. The incident has renewed concerns over Nigeria's security challenges as calls mount for more proactive measures to protect vulnerable communities. WDR's correspondent Yeche Nusasetu reports.
The victims mostly include elders from Magamin Didi village in Maradun local government area of Zamfara state. Local authorities say the reconciliatory delegation had traveled to meet relatives of a notorious bandit leader when the gathering was disrupted and dozens of participants taken away by armed men. Security agencies are intensifying efforts to locate the victims and secure their release. Reacting to the development, retired Major General John Enenche describes the country's security situation as a national emergency requiring urgent and coordinated action.
I think it's an understatement to say we are facing a national security emergency. It has been an emergency for long, but underplayed. What we are seeing now, to me, is an escalation. So for us to begin to say we are facing an emergency now, it's like we are forgetting about the build-up of the various situations across the nation, from the northwest, northeast.
The retired military officer also calls on the federal government to adopt more proactive and innovative approaches to tackling insecurity, arguing that existing strategies must evolve to meet changing threats.
At the level that we were 3 or 4 years ago, and now we are supposed to upgrade the standard of our intelligence monitoring, information gathering beyond what we have now. All we need to do is to have a blanket of information, confirmation, information gathering than what we have now. Monitoring them from point A to B via the satellite, via geofencing, among others.
The incident is the latest in a series of kidnappings and attacks that continue to affect communities across Nigeria's northwest region despite ongoing military operations. For WADR, Yechenu Sasetu in Abuja.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
We now turn to Togo, where a meeting was held Monday to discuss the security situation in the Great Lakes region. The gathering focused on assessing the African Union's mediation efforts aimed at resolving the crisis in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. The meeting was chaired by the president of the Togolese Council, for Nyasengme. For more details, here is Veronique Njai.
Several stakeholders responded to the invitation of the African Union mediator for the resolution of the crisis in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo and the Great Lakes region. Among those in attendance were members of the panel or facilitators appointed by the African Union, representatives of the United Nations, the Eastern African Community, the Economic Community of Central Sahel States, the Southern African Development Community, and the International Conference on the Great Lakes region. The representatives reaffirmed their commitment to peace, stability, and development in the Great Lakes region. For his part, the president of the Togolese Council, Faure Gnassingbe, reiterated his determination to continue the mission entrusted to him by the African Union to help restore peace in Eastern DRC. Gnassingbe, who also serves as AU-appointed mediator in the DRC crisis, stressed the need to continue efforts to strengthen coherence and coordination among the various mediation mechanisms engaged in the wider Great Lakes region. The meeting in Lomé adopted several guidelines aimed at improving coordination among the different mediation initiatives. Participants also called for the development of an African contribution to complement the Washington and Doha processes in order to strengthen African ownership, enhance their legitimacy, and facilitate implementation. The gathering, which served as a 6-month review of mediation efforts, followed the high-level meeting on coherence and consolidation of the process in DR Congo and the Great Lakes region, held on January 17, 2026, at the initiative.
Veronica Njide with that report. Attention now shifts to Mali, where a journalist has been remanded in custody following proceedings before the country's specialized cybercrime court in Bamako. Jahanyan Taku, director of the publication Le 22 September, is accused of undermining the credibility of the state following remarks made during a Pan-African media forum held recently in the capital. Usma Umar tells us more.
Following several hours of questioning before the Specialized Judicial Unit for Cybercrime, journalist Chahana Takiu has been placed in pre-trial detention and transferred to the Bamako Central Prison, where he spent his first night in custody. He is being prosecuted for allegedly undermining the credibility of the state over comments made during the Pan-African Media Forum held last week in Bamako. The director of publication at Le 22 September had criticized the transitional authorities, saying they had failed to establish a clear and effective process toward peace and national reconciliation at a time when the country continues to face major security and political challenges. He also questioned what he described as Western narratives in court, a term commonly used in discussions about Western media coverage of Mali's security crisis. These remarks are believed to be at the center of the charges leading to his detention. His trial has been scheduled for July 27.
Cham's report from Bamako, voiced by Usma Uma. Well, let's now bring you another development right here in Senegal, as a court has handed a 20-year prison sentence to an Islamic school teacher convicted of raping and sexually abusing 28 girls. 27 of the victims were students placed under his care. The verdict, delivered by the Criminal Chamber of the High Court in Joburg, concludes a case that sparked widespread public outrage and renewed debate about the protection of children in religious learning institutions. During the trial, several victims stood by statements made during the investigation, while the accused, Serine Kadim Mbaki, rejected all allegations. He argued that he was the target of a conspiracy linked to his role as a local prayer leader. However, after reviewing the evidence, the court found him guilty on all counts and imposed the 20-year sentence requested by the prosecution. Meanwhile, in Guinea, several candidates in the recently held municipal elections have turned to the courts to challenge the results announced by the electoral authorities. The candidates accused the General Directorate of Elections of altering vote totals and are seeking judicial review ahead of the final certification of the polls. Imo Ed tells us more.
Courts across Guinea on Monday began hearing appeals from candidates contesting the results of the May 31 municipal elections. The petitions were filed by candidates who claim that figures published by the General Directorate of Elections do not match results recorded at the administrative vote tabulation centers, which are responsible for consolidating ballots. Among those challenging the results is Jibril Firawa Toure, head of the Mbessia Dabo movement.
Our list found an inconsistency between the figures in the CSCV minutes and the results published by the DGEC. We were called before the court, so we provided explanations regarding the difference in the figures. We presented the arguments available to us, and I sincerely hope that the court will rule on the matter.
Another candidate, Ali Badra Conte of Matam Commune, also appeared before the court, alleging that results initially announced at the vote tabulation centers were altered before being published by the Electoral Commission.
The results initially announced by the CECV were altered by the DGE. We are calling for our rights to be restored and for justice to be done. We deployed our representatives to all polling stations and our agents were present during the vote centralization process. Therefore, we have all the supporting documents today. We simply want our rights to be restored, and we are satisfied with the initial result provided by the CECV, because at that level, all political parties were represented.
The courts are expected to review the petitions and supporting evidence before delivering their rulings on Wednesday. The decisions could determine whether any changes are made to the municipal election results before they are formally validated.
That was Imo Edit with a report filed by our Conakry correspondent General Alpha Ibrahim Ambalde. You are listening to Newslink on West Africa, Democracy Radio 94.9 FM, Dakar, Senegal, and online at wadr.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Benin's President Wadr pledges economic and financial cooperation with Senegal as he begins second leg of his regional tour. The Ghanaian government extradites former microfinance executive Sadina Ationun on financial mismanagement charges. Security forces in Nigeria intensified efforts to secure at least 39 residents adopted by bandits in northwest Zamfara state. Several election candidates again in challenge municipal resorts in court, alleging irregularities in vote tally. Still ahead in the news, we have guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Thank you for staying with us. We are streaming live on YouTube at WADR and on Facebook, WADR English Service. National Assembly members in the Gambia have questioned government spending in the energy sector amid persistent electricity outages affecting households and businesses across the country. The concerns came during parliamentary discussions on the 2026 budget implementation, where lawmakers highlighted low spending by the Ministry of Petroleum and Energy. They also raised questions over funding to the National Water and Electricity Company and the broader sustainability of the sector. Sandona Mendy has the details.
Lawmakers have expressed concern over the Ministry of Petroleum and Energy's low budget execution rate of just 1% in the first quarter of 2026, describing it as one of the lowest among government institutions at a time when electricity outages remain a major challenge. Members of the National Assembly question Finance Minister Sidi Keita on why spending remains so limited.
No wonder if 1% is the execution rate, we will face this on and off.
Petroleum and Energy posted the lowest execution of the budget.
What concrete measures is your ministry taking to ensure timely implementation of government projects?
In response, Minister Keita defended the government's commitment to the energy sector.
The 1 billion was not paid in the first quarter, but rather in the second quarter, because it's quarterly payments, and the first installment was effectively paid in April.
Meanwhile, concerns were also raised over the energy sector's growing debt burden and the government's exposure to loans used to expand electricity infrastructure. Lawmakers urged authorities to accelerate efforts to attract independent power producers, arguing that greater private sector participation could help ease the financial burden on the state and improve electricity generation capacity. The discussions underscored growing parliamentary concern over energy sector management and the urgent need for sustainable solutions to the Gambia's recurring power supply challenges. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Sangdona Mendy, reporting from Banjul.
Elsewhere, the Liberian government has opened an international policy roundtable on local governance and rural development aimed at strengthening decentralization and improving service delivery. The meeting brings together policymakers, researchers, and international partners to explore strategies for inclusive rural transformation. The forum is expected to produce recommendations aimed at supporting ongoing governance reforms in the country. Abraham Parker tells us more.
More than 150 delegates from Africa and Asia are attending the week-long forum, which runs from June 7 to 13. Discussions will focus on key areas of governance reform, including fiscal decentralization, community-driven development, digital governance, and climate resilience. Opening the event, Liberia's local government minister, Francis Youmane, described the gathering as an important step in advancing the country's decentralization agenda.
Your presence reflects our shared commitment to advancing rural development, strengthening local institutions, and improving the lives of the people we serve.
The Secretary General of the African Asian Rural Development Organization, Mano Newslink, called for stronger collaboration among countries to address persistent challenges facing rural communities.
And most importantly, motivating leaders like you, many leaders sitting here, and on the dais, all the leaders we appreciate, who are trying to tackle those mammoth quagmires and problems in our countries.
President Joseph Boakai, speaking at the opening, reaffirmed his government's commitment to decentralization, stressing that development must be reflected in the daily lives of citizens.
In how we address rural neglect, whether farmers can access markets, whether young people can find opportunities close to home, whether women are empowered to participate fully in decision-making, and whether communities have access to essential services.
The roundtable is expected to produce recommendations and a roadmap aimed at strengthening local governance and accelerating rural transformation across the country. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
The guest segment focuses on Nigeria's evacuation exercise for its nationals from South Africa, which commenced today. The government's decision comes amid renewed tension attributing to recent anti-migrant violence in South Africa, which has also targeted citizens from other African countries, including Ghana. Over the weekend, officials in Accra completed the evacuation of nearly 1,000 Ghanaians from South Africa. Speaking about Nigeria's repatriation program is Kimibi Imomotimi Ebiemfa, spokesperson for the Nigerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
There are two categories. There's a category of Nigerians that are living in South Africa legally. They satisfied all legal requirements. They are living there legally. But because of the tension, they are not comfortable to continuously experience molestation, instigations, abuse, or unnecessary derogatory comment by the ringleaders of the protest, so they want to return back to Nigeria. There are also another category of Nigerians that are in South Africa but don't have the right legal requirement to continuously stay in the country. So instead of running away from law enforcement or having issues with the police, they also want to return. So those are the two categories that signed up for the evacuation.
What sort of package or initiative is being provided by the government to support their reintegration process?
We have a standard operating procedure as regards returnees or Nigerians that have been evacuated from different parts of the world. Normally, we have different ministries, agencies, government departments that perform specific roles. So first, on arrival, they will be accommodated in the facility that is operated by the National Refugee Commission, and there they will be profiled. And from the profiling, we will ascertain those that are maybe, for example, victims of trafficking, and know how best to give them necessary orientation, counseling, as the case may be, to reunite them with their families. Those that have lost businesses or have been exposed to violent protests, as the case may be, they too will be counseled and undergo necessary therapy sessions before uniting them with their families. And again, there will be the provision for a starter pack for some category of persons for them to at least restart their lives afresh in the country. And again, since the flights arrive in Lagos, definitely there will be the facilitation of transportation to different parts of the country that they belong to.
So this starter pack, how much is it in dollars? Do you have any knowledge?
We can't disclose that.
And so is it a one-off payment?
Definitely the data for all those arriving will be collected. So if there are those that will need maybe training, vocational trainings or business-related training to give them that sense of belonging and make them to start afresh in Nigeria, those services will be provided from time to time.
Is the Nigerian government also aware of some of the concerns, frustrations, or anger among a section of the population that is asking for the removal of some South African businesses from the country?
We are aware of those concerns, but we've called on Nigerians not to take the laws into their hands. And so far, so good. No South African business has been attacked in Nigeria, in any of our major cities. No, their businesses are still thriving. All what government is concerned about is the welfare, security, protection of our nationals in South Africa, and will continue to also do that for South African businesses and their nationals that are living in Nigeria.
Kimibi Imomotimi Ebiamfa is the spokesperson for the Nigerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Now in sports, beginning with Senegal, President Bassirou Diomaye Faye paid tribute to the country's young football champions, welcoming the national under-17 and under-15 teams to the presidential palace in Dakar. The two sides recently brought home continental glory, with the under-17s winning the Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco and the under-15s lifting the CAF African School Football Championship in Zimbabwe. President Faye reminded the young champions that while talents can win matches, it is character that wins titles. And elsewhere, a Somali referee, initial approver to make history at the FIFA World Cup, has been denied entry to the United States. Omar Abdulkader Atan was expected to become the first Somali official to referee a World Cup match, but FIFA confirmed he will not be able to take part in the tournament after U.S. authorities refused him entry. FIFA said immigration decisions are the responsibility of the host country and indicated that Atan's status is not expected to change. That's the latest in the world of sports. With that, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa, Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM, Dakar, Senegal, and online at wadr.org. Thank you for listening. Many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Maudu Ju for the technical support. To interact with us via our social media platforms, including X, Instagram, and Facebook at WADR English. I am Augustine Coley. Good evening.
We thank you for listening to Newslink in Nigeria on Love FM Abuja and Darling FM Owerri. In the Gambia on Hot FM Banjul, Hilltop FM and Veritas Radio in Serekunda. Thank you for listening on Alternative Youth Radio Lofa County, Liberia, Radio Kegaman in Nimba County, and DCN Radio Riverses County. A big thank you to Radio Baft FM in Sierra Leone for listening, and in Ghana we thank Radio Pad in Damango and Royals FM in Wenchi. Thank you all for listening to Newslink.